Hi, I'm Natalie, 38, and my daughter Madison is the most dedicated 12-year-old dancer you'll ever meet. When we arrived at the Regional Youth Dance Championship, everything was on the line. A $5,000 scholarship and invitation to the national showcase were at stake after 6 years of Madison's hard work in ballet and contemporary dance. But I never expected my sister-in-law Heather to sabotage us right before the biggest performance of Madison's life. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from in the comments and subscribe if you want to hear more stories about family drama and sweet revenge. Let me give you some context about our situation. I was once a dancer myself, pouring my heart and soul into ballet until a devastating knee injury at 19 crushed those dreams forever. I still remember the sound of my ACL tearing during that fateful performance and the months of physical therapy that followed. The doctors made it clear I would never dance professionally again. I had to rebuild my life, find a new path. That's how I ended up getting my degree in accounting, meeting my husband Ryan, and eventually channeling my passion into supporting Madison. When Madison was just 4 years old, she started twirling around our living room with a natural grace that caught my attention immediately. Unlike some dance moms who push their children relentlessly, I was careful to nurture her interest without forcing my unfulfilled dreams onto her. I introduced her to a beginner ballet class, and the joy on her face after that first lesson told me everything I needed to know. This was her passion, not just mine. My sister-in-law Heather entered our lives when she married my brother Kevin 8 years ago. From the beginning, there was tension. During their wedding planning, Heather repeatedly dismissed my suggestions despite Kevin asking me to help since I had planned several successful charity galas. She seemed determined to establish dominance in every situation, especially with female family members. I tried to maintain peace for Kevin's sake, but Heather's competitive nature made it difficult. Heather has twin daughters, Amber and Ashley, who are 13 now. They started dancing around the same time as Madison, and while they're talented, they've never quite matched Madison's natural ability or dedication. This fact seems to be a constant source of irritation for Heather, who pushes her girls relentlessly. The twins are actually sweet kids when their mother isn't around, sometimes even admiring Madison's technique during family gatherings. Over the years, Heather's jealousy manifested in passive-aggressive comments that became increasingly difficult to ignore. Oh, Madison's still doing that basic routine? Amber and Ashley mastered that last year. Or, it's so cute how Madison tries so hard despite not having the right body type for ballet. I would bite my tongue for family harmony, but each remark stung, especially when Madison was within earshot. Then came the incidents. Madison's dance shoes mysteriously disappeared before a recital when Heather was the only person who had been near her dance bag. We received an accidental text from Heather giving us the wrong time for a competition, causing us to nearly miss Madison's performance. Each time, Heather had a plausible explanation, and Kevin would insist she meant no harm. I began to doubt myself. Was I being paranoid? Overprotective? The Grand Prix dance competition changed everything. This wasn't just another recital or minor competition. This was the most prestigious youth dance event in our state, with scouts from elite academies in attendance. Madison had been invited to compete based on her performance at a qualifying event 3 months earlier, an achievement that fewer than 10% of applicants received. The preparation was intense. Madison practiced 4 hours daily after school, perfecting every movement of her contemporary ballet routine. We adjusted our family schedule entirely around her training. Ryan took extra shifts at the construction company to cover the entry fees, costume costs, and private coaching sessions. I scaled back my accounting work to drive Madison to and from the studio every day. Even her younger brother Tyler, usually absorbed in his video games, started helping around the house more to give Madison space to practice. Madison's dance teacher, Sophia Reynolds, saw something special in my daughter. She dances with her soul, Sophia told me during one of our parent conferences. That's something you can't teach. Sophia stayed late many evenings to work with Madison one-on-one, refining the routine until every gesture conveyed the emotional story they wanted to tell. The costume was another major investment. We commissioned a local designer who specialized in dance attire to create a crystal-embellished teal dress that complemented Madison's choreography perfectly. The $850 price tag made me wince, but Ryan insisted our daughter deserved the best for this opportunity. I still remember Madison's eyes lighting up during the final fitting, how she spun around watching the fabric catch the light. "I feel like a real dancer," she whispered, and I had to turn away to hide my tears. As competition day approached, Madison's confidence grew with each practice session. She stopped second-guessing her abilities and embraced the challenging choreography. Even Sophia commented on the transformation. "Whatever happens at the competition," she said, "Madison has already achieved something remarkable." The night before the event, Madison couldn't sleep from excitement, practicing her breathing exercises and visualizing her performance until well past midnight. What none of us knew was that Heather had been stewing in resentment ever since learning that Madison had qualified while her twins had not. They would still compete, but in a different division with less prestige and smaller prizes. According to my brother Kevin, who called me in confidence, Heather had been obsessively watching videos of previous winners, pushing Amber and Ashley to practice until they were exhausted and tearful. The competition had become personal for her in a way that went beyond normal parental pride. Competition day arrived with a pre-dawn alarm. I woke Madison at 5 a.m., though I suspect she had barely slept. Her eyes were bright with anticipation as she ate the protein-rich breakfast I had prepared. We had packed most items the night before, meticulously checking everything against Sophia's comprehensive list. The crystal-embellished teal dress hung protected in its garment bag, along with Madison's dance shoes, backup tights, emergency sewing kit, and the extensive hair and makeup supplies. Our morning ritual had a comforting familiarity, despite the high stakes. I carefully curled Madison's chestnut hair, pinning it into the elaborate updo Sophia had demonstrated. Madison sat perfectly still, unusual for an energetic 12-year-old, as I applied the stage makeup that would prevent her features from washing out under the intense lighting. Throughout the process, she practiced her choreography mentally, her fingers subtly moving through the sequences on her lap. "You're going to be amazing today," I told her as I secured the final hairpin. "Just dance like you do in practice, and everything else will take care of itself." "What if I forget something?" Madison asked, a rare moment of vulnerability breaking through her composed exterior. "Then you'll improvise, just like Sophia taught you. But you won't forget. You know this routine better than you know your own name." We arrived at the Golden State Convention Center an hour before check-in opened. The parking lot was already filling with cars, dance moms and dads hustling their children through the massive glass doors. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with nervous energy. Competitors of all ages warmed up in every available space, some stretching against walls while others marked through their routines in whispered counts. We located our assigned dressing room, which Madison would share with 5 other dancers in her division. 2 families were already setting up when we arrived. The Wilsons greeted us warmly. Their daughter Gabriella had taken a few master classes with Madison in the past. The Garcia family was new to us, but their daughter Isabella immediately complimented Madison's hair and offered to share their phone charger if we needed it. The camaraderie among competitors was one of the things I loved most about the dance community. I was hanging Madison's dress carefully on the provided rack when Heather burst in with Amber and Ashley in tow. Her smile seemed excessively bright as she air-kissed my cheeks. "Natalie, Madison, so wonderful to see you both. Girls, say hello to your cousin and aunt." The twins offered shy smiles. They looked exhausted, dark circles visible beneath their stage makeup. I felt a pang of sympathy for them. "Madison, your hair looks just darling," Heather continued, her voice carrying across the room so other parents could hear. We went with a much more sophisticated style for the girls, of course. The judges in the elite division tend to prefer a more mature presentation. I ignored the implied criticism. "The girls look lovely. Are you in this dressing room too?" "Of course," Heather replied, claiming the largest corner of the room despite arriving after everyone else. "I specifically requested we share with family. I thought it would be nice for the girls to have their favorite aunt around." For the next hour, Things remained surprisingly pleasant. Madison stayed focused on her warm-up stretches while I organized her accessories. Heather was uncharacteristically helpful, offering everyone bottled water and complimenting the other girls' costumes. In retrospect, I should have recognized this unusual generosity as a warning sign. As the first call from Madison's division approached, I helped her into the teal dress. The fabric caught the light beautifully, the crystals creating a subtle shimmer with each movement. Madison looked at herself in the mirror, her expression serious as she assessed the overall effect. "I need to grab my hairspray from the car," I told her. "I think I left it in the side pocket of my tote. Will you be okay for 2 minutes?" "I'll help her with the zipper," Heather offered immediately. The twins are all set, and I know how tricky those costume closures can be. I hesitated, some instinct warning me, but dismissed the feeling as paranoia. Heather was family, after all, and the other parents were present. What could possibly happen? I rushed to the car, found a hairspray, and returned in less than 3 minutes. As I approached the dressing room door, I heard a distinct sound that made my stomach drop, the unmistakable tear of fabric followed by gasps from several people. I pushed open the door to find Madison standing frozen, her beautiful teal dress now featuring a jagged 6-inch rip along the side seam. Several crystals had detached and scattered across the floor. The damage was substantial and immediately obvious. My daughter's face had drained of all color. Heather stood behind her, one hand covering her mouth in an exaggerated display of dismay. "Oh no, how clumsy of me. My bracelet must have caught on the fabric when I was helping with the zipper." Our eyes met, and she leaned closer to Madison, whispering just loud enough that I could hear, "Now my girls will win for sure." The smirk that followed removed any doubt about whether this had been an accident. For a moment, the room seemed to spin around me as rage and disbelief competed for dominance. Madison fled to the bathroom, tears finally breaking through her composed facade. "What did you do?" I demanded, keeping my voice low despite my fury. Creating a scene would only make things worse for Madison. "It was an accident," Heather insisted loudly for the benefit of the other parents, who were watching uncomfortably. "These things happen at competitions. Maybe it's a sign Madison isn't ready for this level yet." "This wasn't an accident," I hissed, stepping closer. "I saw your face. You did this deliberately." "Careful, Natalie," she replied, her voice sickly sweet. "You're getting emotional, and that won't help Madison. Perhaps it would be best if you withdrew from the competition. There's always next year, assuming Madison sticks with dance that long." I glanced at Amber and Ashley, who looked mortified by their mother's behavior. They avoided eye contact, fidgeting with their own costumes and whispering to each other. They were good kids caught in an impossible situation. The dress represented hours of work and a significant financial investment, but more importantly, it was part of the performance Madison had perfected over months of practice. The fabric was specially chosen to complement her movements. The cut was designed to highlight the technical elements of her routine. Without it, she would be at a significant disadvantage if she could perform at all. I gathered the fallen crystals from the floor, examining the torn seam with shaking hands. The rip was strategic, placed where it would be most visible to judges and impossible to ignore. Just like Heather's intentions. I checked my watch with growing panic. Madison was scheduled to perform in just 2 hours. The competition was running with military precision. There would be no delays or schedule adjustments. 2 hours to somehow salvage a damaged costume that had taken weeks to create. My mind raced through limited options. I called Ryan, who was still on his way to the venue after dropping off our son Tyler at a friend's house. "Ryan, we have an emergency," I explained, stepping into the hallway for privacy. "Heather deliberately damaged Madison's costume. It's a disaster." "Are you sure it was deliberate?" he asked, the skepticism in his voice only increasing my frustration. "Yes, I'm sure." She practically admitted it. She told Madison that now her girls would win for sure. I don't even know what to say. "Have you called Kevin?" "Kevin isn't going to believe me over his wife. I need solutions, not another family argument. How quickly can you get here?" "I'm still an hour out with traffic." What about the emergency kit? Don't you have safety pins or something? I returned to the dressing room and pulled out the small sewing kit I had packed. With trembling fingers, I attempted to secure the torn fabric with safety pins, but the damage was too extensive. The delicate material continued to separate around the pins, and the missing crystals left noticeable bare patches. Even if I could close the seam, the dress would still look obviously damaged under the stage lights. Some of the other parents offered sympathy and suggestions. Mrs. Wilson had extra fabric tape, but it created visible lumps under the thin material. Mrs. Garcia knew a backstage seamstress, but she was working with another company across town and couldn't arrive for at least 3 hours. Through it all, Heather pretended concern while subtly emphasizing the gravity of the situation. "Such a shame after all your hard work," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. The judges are so particular about presentation. I remember last year when a girl's costume had just a tiny tear and she was marked down significantly. I wanted to scream at her, but causing a scene would only make things worse for Madison. I tried calling Sophia, Madison's dance teacher, but she was working with other students from our studio and couldn't answer. As I struggled with the increasingly futile repair attempts, memories of previous accidents flashed through my mind. 6 months ago, Heather had spilled coffee on Madison's costume bag at a minor competition. The liquid had somehow soaked through to stain just the sleeve of Madison's costume. At the time, I had given her the benefit of the doubt. Now the pattern was unmistakable. Madison finally returned from the bathroom, her eyes red but her makeup surprisingly intact. What struck me most was her composure. While I was falling apart, my 12-year-old daughter seemed oddly calm. "Mom, it's okay," she said quietly. "It's not okay, sweetheart. But we'll figure something out," I assured her, not believing my own words. How could we possibly fix this in time? The competition officials made an announcement over the loudspeaker. Preliminary rounds for Madison's division would begin in 90 minutes. The countdown amplified my stress to nearly unbearable levels. I called the closest fabric store, only to discover they were closed on Sundays. A local seamstress's voicemail informed me she was out of town for the weekend. Each failed attempt at finding help sent my anxiety spiraling higher. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely hold my phone. I seriously considered withdrawing from the competition. The thought of Madison performing in a visibly damaged costume, being judged not on her talent but on circumstances beyond her control, was heartbreaking. Perhaps it would be less traumatic to forfeit than to face certain defeat and possible humiliation. In the background, I could see Amber and Ashley practicing their routine in a corner of the dressing room. Heather filmed them proudly on her phone, occasionally glancing in our direction with poorly concealed satisfaction. The twins executed their movements with precision, if not the natural grace Madison possessed. Their matching crimson costumes were flawless, a pointed contrast to our situation. My stomach churned with nausea. The room felt too warm, too crowded. I couldn't catch my breath properly. Madison must have noticed my deteriorating state because she suddenly took my hand with surprising firmness. "Mom," she whispered, "trust me for a minute. Come with me." I followed her out of the dressing room, too defeated to question where we were going. Madison led me down a quiet corridor away from the bustle of competitors and parents, her expression unreadable. Once we were alone in the empty hallway, Madison turned to face me with a determination I'd rarely seen in her young face. "Mom, relax. I've got this," she said, her voice steady and surprisingly mature. "Honey, I know you're trying to be brave, but the dress is ruined. We need to face facts." Madison shook her head, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth.
"No, Mom.
I mean, I literally have this covered." She led me to a bank of lockers where competitors could store additional items. With deliberate movements, she entered a combination and opened one of the doors, pulling out a garment bag I'd never seen before. "What's that?" I asked, confusion temporarily replacing panic. "My backup costume," Madison replied, unzipping the bag to reveal a stunning purple dress with silver accents and a flowing skirt design. It wasn't identical to the teal creation, but it was equally beautiful and clearly professional quality. I stared at the dress, then at my daughter, unable to process what I was seeing. Where did this come from? How did you? Remember last month when I stayed late with Sophia 3 times in 1 week? We weren't just working on choreography. Madison's expression became serious. I overheard Aunt Heather telling the twins she would make sure they won this competition. The way she said it scared me. My heart sank at the realization that my 12-year-old had recognized the threat before I had. Why didn't you tell me? Because you would have confronted her, and then she would have done something else we couldn't prepare for. Madison spoke with the pragmatism of someone far beyond her years. Sophia helped me create a contingency plan instead. She explained how dance teacher Sophia had recognized the pattern in Heather's accidents as well. Together, they had quietly commissioned this alternate costume, using money Madison had saved from birthday gifts and small competition winnings. They had kept it completely secret, knowing that if Heather discovered the backup plan, she would simply target that costume instead. Sophia said proper preparation prevents poor performance, Madison recited, clearly quoting her mentor. She taught me that in dance and in life, we should always have a plan B. I was simultaneously bursting with pride at my daughter's foresight and maturity, and filled with regret that I hadn't protected her better from Heather's machinations. A child shouldn't have to develop such defensive strategies against family members. I'm so sorry you had to deal with this, sweetheart, I said, pulling her into a gentle hug to avoid disturbing her competition hair and makeup. I should have seen this coming. Madison shrugged. It's not your fault. And anyway, she only wins if we let her see us upset. That's what Sophia says. I examined the purple dress more carefully. The craftsmanship was excellent, with the same quality as the original teal costume. The color complemented Madison's coloring beautifully, perhaps even better than the teal had done. The silver accents would catch the stage lights effectively. It's gorgeous, Madison. But are you sure it works with your choreography? The original dress was designed specifically for your movements. We adjusted some elements of the routine to showcase this dress too. Actually, Sophia thinks the flowing skirt might highlight my turns even better. Madison demonstrated a quick pirouette, the fabric of the purple dress creating a perfect circle around her. As if summoned by our discussion, Sophia appeared in the hallway, slightly breathless. I came as soon as I could get away. Did it happen? Just like you predicted, Madison confirmed. Aunt Heather ripped the teal dress. I think she caught her bracelet on it deliberately. Sophia nodded grimly. I wish I'd been wrong, but after what happened at the spring showcase, I had my suspicions. She turned to me. I'm sorry I kept this from you, Natalie, but we needed to maintain absolute secrecy. If Heather had seen even a hint of a backup plan in your expression, she would have found a way to counter it. I was momentarily hurt that they hadn't trusted me with the information, but looking at the beautiful alternative costume, I couldn't argue with their results. I understand, and thank you for helping Madison. Sophia smiled. Your daughter is not only talented, but incredibly resourceful. This was mostly her idea, you know. Madison blushed at the praise. So, what's our strategy now? She asked. Should we just switch dresses and surprise Aunt Heather at the last minute? Actually, Sophia said with a mischievous gleam in her eye, I think we should maintain the illusion of defeat until the very last moment. Let's have you wear your warm-up clothes right until performance time. Heather will think you're going on with the damaged dress underneath, or that you've found some inadequate substitute. Then, right before you perform, you can reveal the purple dress for maximum impact. Madison grinned. I like that plan. Mom, looking at their expectant faces, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. The crisis wasn't just manageable, it was turning into an opportunity for Madison to shine in ways beyond her dancing ability. She was demonstrating resilience, strategic thinking, and grace under pressure. Let's do it, I agreed, feeling my confidence return. But first, let's have you practice once in the new costume to make sure everything feels right. We found a small unused practice room where Madison could test the dress without being observed. She executed several key sequences from her routine, and I was relieved to see that the costume moved beautifully with her. In fact, the rich purple color against the backdrop of her pale skin created a striking visual impact that might actually improve her chances with the judges. "It's perfect," I told her truthfully. "Even better than the original." Madison beamed. "Then Aunt Heather did us a favor, didn't she?" We returned to the dressing room with Madison now wearing her warm-up clothes over the purple dress. I carried both garment bags, making a show of handling the one containing the damaged teal dress with obvious concern. As we entered, Heather immediately looked up, her eyes searching for signs of our distress. "Were you able to fix it?" she asked with exaggerated concern. "We're going to try," I replied vaguely, allowing my expression to convey resigned disappointment. "Madison will perform regardless." Heather's lips curved into a smile she quickly masked with a sympathetic nod. "That's the spirit. Sometimes it's about the experience rather than winning." Madison sat quietly in a corner, pretending to mentally rehearse while avoiding conversation. The other competitors continued their preparations, occasional glances of sympathy directed our way. The Wilsons and Garcias had been kind, offering assistance and encouragement without pressing for details about our solution. The competition officials announced that Madison's division would begin in 15 minutes. Competitors were instructed to move to the staging area. It was time for our plan to unfold. I knelt beside Madison for a final pep talk, keeping my voice low. "Remember everything Sophia taught you. Dance with your heart, not just your feet. No matter what happens with the judging, I am so incredibly proud of you." "Thanks, Mom," she whispered back. "I'm not nervous anymore. I'm excited to show Aunt Heather and everyone else what I can do." We gathered our things and headed toward the staging area. Heather and the twins walked ahead of us, the girls moving with the precision of well-trained dancers. Their crimson costumes were beautifully made, and I had to admit they looked impressive. Heather kept glancing back, clearly waiting for Madison to remove her warm-up clothes and reveal the damaged teal dress. The twins' division was called first. They performed a synchronized jazz routine that showcased their technical skills admirably. The choreography was complex, featuring multiple turns and impressive leaps that they executed with precision. The audience applauded enthusiastically, and the judges made notes with neutral expressions. Their performance was objectively good, though perhaps lacking the emotional connection that distinguished truly exceptional dancers. Heather stood at the side of the stage, beaming with pride. As the twins exited, she intercepted them with hugs and effusive praise. "Perfect, girls. Absolutely perfect." The judges were clearly impressed. She made these comments loudly as Madison passed by, heading to the wings for her imminent performance. With a smug smile, Heather added, "The competition this year isn't as strong as we expected, is it?" Madison pretended not to hear, maintaining her focus. We had timed everything precisely. She would remove her warm-up clothes only moments before taking the stage, giving Heather no opportunity to interfere again. As the announcer called Madison's name, I gave her a final hug. "This is your moment, sweetheart." With perfect timing, Madison shed her warm-up clothes, revealing the stunning purple dress in all its glory. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Several nearby competitors gasped at the unexpected transformation. Sophia, who had positioned herself strategically nearby, quickly helped adjust the dress and gave Madison a final reassuring nod. I turned just in time to witness Heather's reaction. Her jaw literally dropped, her eyes widening in stunned disbelief. She recovered quickly, composing her features, but the momentary shock had been unmistakable. I allowed myself a small, satisfied smile before returning my attention to Madison. My daughter walked onto the stage with her head held high, taking her position with calm confidence. As the music began, a hush fell over the audience. From the first movement, it was clear we were witnessing something special. Madison's technique was flawless, her turns crisp and centered, her extensions long and controlled. But it was the artistry beyond the technical elements that truly captivated. She danced with a maturity and emotional depth rarely seen in performers her age. The purple dress moved with her like a living extension of her body, the flowing fabric emphasizing each movement and creating beautiful lines. A particularly challenging sequence of turns drew spontaneous applause from the audience. Madison executed 5 consecutive pirouettes, maintaining perfect form throughout, then transitioned smoothly into a series of leaps that seemed to defy gravity. Her facial expressions conveyed the emotional narrative of the piece, without ever appearing forced or theatrical. I glanced at the judges. All 3 were watching intently, making extensive notes. One leaned forward in her seat, completely absorbed in the performance. Another nodded slightly at a particularly impressive movement. As Madison executed her final dramatic pose, holding a breathtaking arabesque as the music faded, the audience erupted into applause. People rose to their feet in a spontaneous standing ovation. Madison's face broke into a radiant smile as she acknowledged the audience with a graceful bow. Backstage, I embraced her, words failing me completely. Sophia was right behind me, her professional demeanor momentarily forgotten as she hugged Madison with genuine emotion. That was beyond anything we practiced, she whispered to Madison. You transcended the choreography. Other competitors and their parents came forward with congratulations. Even the twins approached, offering sincere compliments despite their mother's glowering presence several feet away. Your dress is beautiful, Ashley said quietly. And your dancing was amazing. Thanks, Madison replied warmly. You guys did great too. The awards ceremony was scheduled for an hour later. We used the time to change Madison back into her street clothes and rehydrate after her intense performance. Heather kept her distance, speaking in hushed tones with the twins and occasionally shooting dark looks in our direction. When the results were announced, the tension was palpable. The judge began with honorable mentions, then moved to 3rd place, then 2nd. Madison squeezed my hand tightly as we waited. 1st place in the Junior Contemporary Division, with a special recognition for artistic expression, goes to Madison Mitchell. The audience applauded enthusiastically as Madison stepped forward to receive her trophy and certificate. The special recognition was particularly significant, as it came with additional scholarship funds and an invitation to a prestigious summer intensive program. Heather immediately approached the competition director, gesturing emphatically and pointing in our direction. I moved closer to hear her complaint. The costume she performed in wasn't the one registered with her application, Heather was insisting. That's a clear violation of the rules. Her placement should be reconsidered. The director, a veteran of dance competitions with over 20 years of experience, regarded Heather with a patient but firm expression. Mrs. Bennett, the rules allow for costume changes in case of damage or malfunction. They simply need to be approved by the stage manager, which Madison's was. There's no violation. But she gained an unfair advantage by surprising the judges with a different look than her competitors expected, Heather persisted. The judges score on technique, artistry, and overall performance quality, not on meeting competitors' expectations, the director replied, ending the conversation by turning to congratulate Madison personally. Heather's face flushed with anger. She collected her twins and stormed out before the ceremony concluded, leaving Kevin, who had arrived during Madison's performance, looking confused and embarrassed. Other parents and competitors continued to approach Madison with congratulations and questions about her training. Several younger dancers asked for photos with her, treating her like a celebrity. Sophia was approached by parents inquiring about lessons, clearly impressed by her students' success. The victory was sweet, but what moved me most was watching Madison handle it with genuine grace. She thanked everyone sincerely, credited Sophia's mentorship, and made a point of complimenting other dancers on their performances. My daughter wasn't just a talented dancer, she was becoming a remarkable young woman. That evening, we celebrated Madison's victory at her favorite restaurant, an Italian place called Giuseppe's that made her beloved mushroom ravioli. Ryan had arrived just in time to see Madison's performance and was now hearing the full story of Heather's sabotage and our countermeasures. I still can't believe she would go that far, he said, shaking his head in disbelief. Over a children's dance competition. It wasn't just about the competition for her, I explained. It's about this narrative she's created where her children have to be better than everyone else's, especially family. Madison was enjoying her moment of triumph, But I noticed she wasn't gloating or dwelling on Heather's defeat. Instead, she was excitedly discussing the summer intensive program she'd been invited to attend as part of her prize package. Sophia says some of the instructors come from major ballet companies, she explained, eyes shining. We might even get to work with a choreographer from New York City Ballet. Ryan's phone rang, interrupting our celebration. He checked the caller ID and grimaced. It's Kevin, he said, stepping away from the table to take the call. He returned a few minutes later with a somber expression. Kevin wanted to apologize for Heather's behavior. He says he had no idea she would do something like that and he's pretty upset with her. Did he actually believe it happened? I asked skeptically. Kevin had a history of making excuses for his wife's behavior. He said he saw the torn dress backstage after everyone left. And apparently Ashley told him what really happened. Ryan looked meaningfully at Madison. It seems your cousins aren't entirely happy with their mother's methods. This new information made me reconsider the twins. Perhaps they were struggling under Heather's intense pressure and expectations. It couldn't be easy having a mother who valued winning above integrity. Over the next few days, Madison's performance video, which Sophia had professionally recorded, began circulating in the local dance community. The studio's social media page featured her victory, leading to an influx of inquiries from parents of prospective students. Madison was becoming something of a celebrity in our regional dance world. Even more exciting was an email from the prestigious Westridge Dance Academy expressing interest in Madison. They had representatives at the competition and were impressed by her performance quality and artistic maturity. While she was still too young for their full-time program, they invited her to audition for their junior associate program, which would provide advanced training alongside her regular studio classes. A week after the competition, I received a surprising text message from Ashley, Heather's daughter. Can Madison still come to our birthday party next month? We really want her there, even if Mom is being weird about everything. This led to a complicated conversation with Ryan about how to handle our relationship with Kevin's family going forward. We agreed that cutting off contact entirely would punish the twins for their mother's actions, but we needed clear boundaries with Heather. I think we need a family meeting, Ryan suggested. Kevin, you, me, and Heather. We need to address what happened directly. The meeting was as uncomfortable as expected. We gathered at a neutral location, a quiet coffee shop midway between our homes. Kevin began with another apology for Heather's behavior, but when pressed, Heather refused to admit any deliberate wrongdoing. Accidents happen at competitions all the time, she insisted, though her eyes couldn't quite meet mine. I think Natalie is blowing this out of proportion because Madison won, and she wants to make me look bad. Heather, Kevin said firmly, surprising me with his directness. Ashley told me she heard you say Madison's dress ripping would ensure our girls would win. She was upset about it. Heather's face flushed. Ashley misunderstood. I was just trying to boost her confidence. The conversation continued in circles, with Heather deflecting and minimizing while Kevin made increasingly frustrated attempts to mediate. Finally, Ryan intervened with his characteristic practicality. Look, what's done is done. Madison succeeded despite what happened. But going forward, we need some ground rules for family interactions around competitions. The girls are cousins first, competitors second. Their relationship shouldn't be poisoned by adult conflicts. We established some basic boundaries. No unsupervised interaction between Heather and Madison's competition materials, advance notice if the girls would be competing in the same events, and a cooling-off period for family gatherings around major competitions. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Our relationship with Kevin's family became more distant for a time. Holiday gatherings were polite, but strained. The twins, however, seemed eager to maintain their connection with Madison. They began texting her regularly, sometimes asking for advice about dance techniques or music selections for their routines. I suspected this communication happened without Heather's knowledge. Meanwhile, Madison's dance career flourished. The $5,000 scholarship from the competition allowed us to invest in additional training opportunities we couldn't have afforded otherwise. She attended weekend workshops with guest instructors and began private lessons focusing on her point work, which Sophia identified as an area with professional potential. Madison also developed new friendships with dancers she'd met at the competition. The Garcia family lived close enough that Isabella and Madison began carpooling to a weekly advanced technique class at a neighboring studio. The girls supported rather than competed with each other, each recognizing the other's unique strengths. What touched me most was watching Madison begin to mentor younger dancers at her studio. Sophia occasionally asked her to demonstrate for the beginner classes, and Madison showed remarkable patience and encouragement with the nervous 7- and 8-year-olds. She seemed to instinctively understand how to correct without criticizing, a skill some adult instructors never mastered. "You're good with the little ones," I observed after watching her help a frustrated young dancer master a basic combination. Madison smiled thoughtfully. "I remember how it feels when something seems impossible. And then one day, it just clicks. I want to help them get to that moment faster." I recognized in that simple statement the mature perspective that had allowed her to handle Heather's sabotage with such composure. My daughter understood that success wasn't about defeating others, but about overcoming challenges, including those presented by difficult people. 6 months after the competition incident, the changes in our family dynamics had largely stabilized into a new normal. Madison continued to excel in dance, with multiple successful performances and competition placements. The purple dress had become something of a lucky charm, carefully preserved for special occasions. Kevin had made concerted efforts to repair the damage to our sibling relationship. He began calling more regularly and occasionally visited with just the twins, without Heather. During one such visit, he confided that the competition incident had forced him to recognize patterns in Heather's behavior he'd been ignoring for years. "I've insisted she start therapy," he told me quietly while the kids were playing in the backyard. She resisted at first, but after Ashley threatened to quit dance entirely, she finally agreed. The therapist thinks there's some deep-seated insecurity driving her competitiveness. I was skeptical, but hopeful that professional help might lead to positive changes. For the twins' sake, if nothing else. Heather herself remained distant, but there had been small signs of improvement. After Madison won another significant competition, Heather had sent a brief, but seemingly sincere congratulatory text. When they encountered each other at regional dance events, Heather was unfailingly polite, if somewhat stiff. It wasn't friendship, but it was civilized coexistence. More surprisingly, the twins had developed a genuine admiration for Madison. They began asking her advice about their choreography and technique, sometimes even sharing videos of their practices for her feedback. Away from their mother's influence, Amber and Ashley were actually sweet, funny girls with their own unique talents. Ashley had a particular gift for hip-hop styles that Heather had previously discouraged as undignified. Madison had been selected for the prestigious summer dance program connected to her competition win. The 5-week intensive would be her first extended time away from home, a prospect that filled me with both pride and maternal anxiety. We spent weeks preparing, shopping for dance supplies and dormitory necessities, discussing homesickness strategies and communication plans. The night before her departure, I found Madison sitting on her bed, looking thoughtfully at both her competition dresses displayed on her wall. "Penny for your thoughts?" I asked, sitting beside her. "I was just thinking about how differently everything could have turned out," she replied. "If Aunt Heather hadn't ripped my dress, I might never have worn the purple one. And the judges really loved that costume." "That's true," I acknowledged. "Though I think they loved your dancing more than any costume." Madison nodded. "But it taught me something important. Sophia always says preparation is key, but now I really understand why. Having a backup plan gave me confidence. I wasn't dancing scared." Her insight struck me as remarkably mature. That's a valuable lesson to learn at your age. Some adults never figure that out. "The funny thing is," Madison continued, "now whenever something goes wrong before a performance, I'm not even nervous. I just think, well, it can't be worse than having your dress deliberately ripped by your aunt." She giggled, the incident having transformed from a crisis into a family inside joke. I laughed with her, marveling at her resilience. "You handled that situation better than I did. I was falling apart, and you were problem-solving." "That's because you're my mom," You're supposed to get upset when someone hurts me. She leaned against my shoulder, but I knew we'd figure it out together. The dress incident had become a reference point in our family vocabulary. Whenever we faced a challenge or a setback, someone would inevitably say, "Well, at least no one ripped your dress," our shorthand for keeping perspective during difficulties. Even Heather's behavior had gradually improved. At a recent family gathering, she had actually complimented Madison's performance in a spring showcase, and the praise seemed genuine. The twins confided that their mother's therapy appeared to be helping, though they rolled their eyes at her new mantra about healthy competition. Madison's dance teacher, Sophia, had used the incident as a teaching moment for all her competitive students, emphasizing the importance of sportsmanship and preparation without specifically mentioning Heather. Control what you can control and have contingency plans for what you can't became her frequent reminder before competitions. As for Madison herself, the experience had accelerated her maturity in ways both obvious and subtle. She approached challenges with a calm confidence beyond her years. When a prop malfunctioned during a subsequent performance, she had improvised so smoothly that judges commented specifically on her professional handling of the situation. Perhaps most beautifully, Madison had developed her own philosophy about competition that she shared with younger dancers at her studio. "Dancing isn't about beating others," she would tell them. "It's about becoming better than you were yesterday." Looking back, the torn dress had revealed much more than Heather's jealousy. It had exposed Madison's character, my own protective instincts, and the strength of our mother-daughter bond. It had shown us that sometimes the most significant victories happen backstage, in how we respond to challenges rather than in the spotlight of public recognition. Now, watching Madison pack her dance shoes for the summer program that represented the next step in her journey, I felt profound gratitude for the unlikely gift Heather had unknowingly given us. In trying to break Madison's spirit, she had instead revealed its remarkable strength. Madison caught me watching her and smiled, holding up her purple dress one last time before carefully folding it into her suitcase. "For luck," she explained. But we both knew luck had nothing to do with her success. It was preparation, perseverance, and the quiet confidence that comes from weathering a storm and emerging stronger on the other side. What challenges have your children faced that revealed their unexpected strengths? Has a difficult person in your life ever inadvertently taught you an important lesson? Share your stories in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more family stories about overcoming obstacles and finding success in surprising places. And if you know someone dealing with a competitive family member, share this video with them. Sometimes knowing you're not alone makes all the difference. Thank you for watching, and remember, preparation beats sabotage every time.